Hey, so I wanted to jump on here real quick and address the number one belief that silently sabotages million-dollar business owners. A lot of times people think that the more successful you are, the more peaceful you are. You have less problems. And I find that to be the opposite. I find that when you have a successful company, especially if you have a company that's a couple $100 million, you've got employees, you've got hundreds of employees or thousands of employees, you've got management teams, you've got all kinds of challenges because it's not just your issues, now it's everybody else's as well. And a lot of owners are really stressed out. Even though they're confident and successful and they got a great mindset, you still have all that pressure inside. As they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And a lot of my CEOs and company presidents have this internal pressure where they're just so hard on themselves. And as a result of that, they just feel stuck, right? They sometimes get burned out, sometimes feel like they don't have anywhere to dump their poison, as one person said. They don't have a way of being able to get rid of the tension. They're eating healthy, they're exercising, but they still are having trouble sleeping, or they're having some challenges with taking it to the next level, or just enjoying the success that they've created. And the reason that is almost always because of some faulty subconscious programming, because we're human beings, and human beings are full of unconscious beliefs, and some of those beliefs are very empowering and some of them are very destructive and self-sabotaging. And I always say that you might be a high-performance, fast race car who's designed and built to win races, but if you've got a parking brake applied in your brain and you don't know it's there, it's going to slow you down. And it slows us down in the form of self-doubt or imposter syndrome or just fatigue. And the way that you upgrade that belief is by recognizing that those beliefs are there and then upgrading them, right? And that's what we do with our One Belief Away method. We find those beliefs very quickly and we upgrade them. And then we recharge your batteries so that you feel strong and confident and mentally focused and you feel energized. Plus you have someone that you can trust, that you can talk to and share what's going on, and someone that will be in your corner and support you, that has no strings attached, right? Somewhere that you can share honestly what's going on and feel safe about it, which is huge. A big challenge that I've noticed in many people who are really successful is they have a hard time trusting others. And there might be reasons for that. There probably are really good reasons for that. But if you go through life as a mistrusting person, then you're going to attract more people who are shady, right? Because he who builds the lock attracts the thief. And so we want to upgrade those beliefs so that you are a trusting person who goes through life. That doesn't mean you're dumb. You know, if you know somebody's never going to pay you back, you don't loan them money, but you still show up as a trusting person. I was working with a leader of a big company one time, and he had a huge issue with trusting people. He just didn't trust anybody. And you could tell because the way he had to control everything, the way that everything had to go through him, he wasn't empowering people to make good decisions, so it was slowing everything down. People would bring great ideas, and then they just would never happen. He'd be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and then nothing would ever happen. So then, of course, people lost faith in themselves or in their company because they didn't feel like they were valued or appreciated or heard. And then, of course, when you're a mistrusting person, guess what kind of management team you attract? You attract people that are also mistrusting, which I sat in on a meeting one time, and I literally watched someone who was in charge of VP of the meeting look across at someone else who had been there for 5 years and say, I just don't trust you, right? And if you have your own leadership team that doesn't trust each other, and it was nothing that the other person had even done. It was just the issues that person never resolved. And those issues were causing that person to show up as a mistrusting human being. And they didn't know how to change that, and they never did. And because I wasn't there long enough, because pretty soon they were telling me that I'm an outsider and they didn't really trust me either. They were just going to do more of their work internally because I went in there and I started pointing out the problems. And people don't like when you come in and start pointing out the problems unless they have a growth mindset. But if they have a mistrust mindset, the best way to get rid of the problem is to get rid of the person who's pointing it out. Which was great because I don't want to spend my time with people who don't want to grow. And sadly, a lot of times these companies will have all these awards sitting in a glass case in the front showroom when you walk into the building on the first floor, right? Showing, hey, look at our customer service, look at how we take care of our employees. And then you actually go meet with the leadership team and you're like, wow, there is a big gap here between how you're projecting yourself and what's really going on, which is why I usually get brought in to work with these teams and companies in the first place. So if you want to understand what's going on, if you're feeling like you have mistrust, if you're feeling pressured, if you're feeling stressed, one of the fastest things you can do is just ask yourself, what would I have to believe? Because remember, we want to find beliefs. I'm like a belief hunter, right? So what would I have to believe in order to feel the way that I'm feeling? Well, I'd have to believe you can't trust people. Well, what would I have to believe in order for that to be the case, right? Where did I get that belief from? Because you weren't born with that. You weren't born mistrusting people. So you have this idea that got reinforced over time because of the experiences that you had growing up. In fact, most of our core beliefs were developed before the age of 12 years old, and they are still influencing us today, even if you're in your 60s. And so I found that when you go and you upgrade those beliefs by using the one belief away method, then it frees you from that and allows you to pull the weed and plant a flower. So you ask yourself, what would I have to believe in order to feel that way? And then you just keep asking yourself, well, what would I have to believe if I, so let me just give you an example, right? So there was a guy and he was really stressed out, and he had just lost some money for his clients in a stock trade, right? So I work with some hedge fund leaders, and I work with some people in the stock market and people in finance, and who are usually always stressed out, and using any means they can to stay up and to stay engaged and to keep moving fast and moving hard and pressure. And they thrive under pressure. That's why they do that, because they're good at it, but it has a cost, right? So anyway, he lost a bunch of money and he just got really depressed and about it, and he couldn't seem to shake it. And I'm like, well, what would you have to believe in order to feel really down? And he said, I guess I have to believe that maybe I'm not as good as I used to be, or I lost my mojo. I'm like, well, what else would you have to believe? And he said, well, I guess I would have to believe that, that people aren't going to trust me with their money anymore. I'm like, well, what would happen then? And he said, well, then, I would lose business. And I'm like, well, what would happen then? And then he started getting frustrated, and he said, well, then, I lose a lot of it. I could lose my whole business. And I'm like, well, what would happen then? And he said, well, then, I go out of business. And I'm like, what would happen then? And he was getting annoyed because I kept asking him the same question. However, because leaders don't want to get to the point, right? But going through this process, he needed to understand what was driving him. I already knew, but I wanted him to figure it out. Okay, because if I just told him, he might not have believed me. But if I led him to it, he might realize, and then he would really appreciate the insights because they came from him. So what else would happen? Well, my family would leave me. I'm like, would they really leave you? And he's like, they might. I'm like, but do you think that's going to happen? He says, no, probably not. But they wouldn't be happy. And I'm like, well, what would happen then? And he said, well, I lose my home. And I'm like, what would happen then? He said, well, I'd have to, I don't know what I have to do. I have to go live in my car. And I'm like, would you have to live in your car? And he's like, no. He says, I got friends. If the worst happened, I have friends that I could lean on, and we'd have a place to stay. I'm like, what would happen then? And he said, if all that happened, I'd be getting drunk. And then we both kind of laughed. And then I'm like, yeah, I bet. And then what? Because, people get drunk. They use alcohol as medicine in this country. We're using a depressant to cure our depression. So anyway, common sense isn't common anymore. So what would happen then? He said, well, I'd keep getting drunk. And I'm like, all right, so you're getting drunk a lot. And then once you stop feeling sorry for yourself, and that kind of hit him, I'm like, what would happen next? And then he started thinking about it, and he said, he says, I guess you're right. I started getting over it. I still have all the wisdom. I've been doing this for a long time. So I've lost money before and made lots of money. So, it happens sometimes. Nobody hits it 100% of the time. I don't know why. It just seemed to really get me this time. I have other things going on in my life as well. So it just kind of became overwhelming. So I guess eventually I would just, I would build it back up again. And I'm like, then what would happen? And he said, I'd go I'd go rebuild a company or I'd create another company because I'm very good at business. I'm like, what would happen then? He said, I'd buy a better house. And what would happen then? I would, my family would come back, and what would happen then? And then he said, you know what? He said, I would learn from this experience and it would make me a better person. Not just a better business person, it would make me a better person. And then maybe I would have a little more compassion for others who are going through things like this. And I'm like, wow, that's really powerful insight. And then he just kind of sat there for a moment and thought about that. And then he kind of teared up a little bit, which is not a normal occurrence for people who are really tough and strong and business minded. But he was feeling vulnerable and having some revelations, and he realized how hard he was on everybody else. And he never felt sorry for anybody when they were going through things. It's just business. It's not emotional. Get over it. But now he's having a leveling experience and he's getting emotional and he's having a hard time just getting over it. And if someone told him that would really make him mad. That would break trust. And he's having all these insights and revelations. And he's like, wow, maybe I needed to have this experience to make me a better person, right? The goal of life isn't to be an amazing business person. The goal in life is to be a better human. And that really changed the course of his life. Not only did he start changing how he took care of himself, but he started changing how he took care of his family. He started being more patient. He started being more compassionate with his spouse, with his kids, with his business partners, with his employees. And that changed everything because he started feeling more relaxed and having more fun. And then other people started appreciating that and giving him that positive feedback. And it really transformed him. It really upgraded his quality of life. And that, ironically, is what helped him to become more financially successful in business, right? We think that it's just we got to keep driving harder, but when we upgrade what's going on in here, it upgrades what's going on out there. But everybody's focused on what's out there. They're not focused on what's in here because in here feels uncomfortable or it feels safe or people don't believe that it matters, which is ridiculous because your core beliefs are the filters that you use to filter life. And I've heard people say, well, success covers a lot of sins. Well, according to who? According to you, because not according to the Bible, not according to God. And so, we're making up our own rules. And those aren't the rules that I'm living by. So, because they cause more suffering, they cause more loneliness, they cause more pressure. The rules in the Bible cause more peace, they cause more joy, and they cause more comfort now and in the next life. So if you are struggling in some way and you're having a tough time, then consider pausing and thinking, what do I have to believe right now to feel this pressure? Or what would I have to believe in order to feel like I can't trust people? Or what would I have to believe in order to think that it's okay to not be compassionate because the tougher you are in business, the more successful you are? Well, there's a consequence, right, to that. And I have found that people like that are not very happy. They're always trying to take over something else or crush somebody else or be better than someone else. And that's why it's rampant in this culture, this word narcissist now. Everybody's a narcissist now, because we've seen so many people that are super talented put on pedestals and they act that way. It's all about them. And they end up crashing hard or they end up getting into rehab or they end up divorced 4 times. That's not a role model for happiness and joy and success. So you can have lots of money and lots of success and have all the other stuff too. The happy marriage, the health, the energy, the attitude. You can have it all. It's about the only thing that's getting in the way are the parking brakes that are in your brain. Now, you might not be running, a couple $1 million or $1 billion business. You might be running a business that's $1 million or $500,000 or maybe $100,000. It doesn't really matter. The beliefs in our mind end up being the same. And I always found that fascinating. And whether you're a millionaire or you're not, the beliefs that run our behavior are often the same. The fear of not being enough, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being rejected, the fear of people humiliating you, whatever it may be, which is why we always have to put on that tough face, right? We always got to come back stronger and, puff our chest out and lift our chin up. But when you do that, a good example of that is Donald Trump in his first term. I always think of him as Dad Trump because he was in there making fun of everybody, slamming everybody, doing, cutting everybody down, being super tough. That was kind of his brand, right? Now he won his second term and he's like Grandfather Trump. Every time I see him, he's complimenting somebody. Now he's older, right? But I think he also got humbled when he lost, and then he got a lot of feedback, and now he's coming across and he's complimenting people and he's supporting people and he's appreciating people all the time. I haven't heard him make fun of anybody since he's been in office. Now, I don't watch the news a lot, but I have noticed that he is lifting other people up every chance he gets. That's a shift, right? And even though we're going through some changes right now in our economy and in the world, it's still really interesting to see his leadership shift, right? He had some different beliefs because of the experiences. So our suffering creates resilience and creates opportunities for growth. We don't want to get rid of suffering. We want to use it to our advantage. So if you're suffering right now, if you're having a hard time right now, then go back, watch this video again, start asking yourself some of those questions, start figuring out what you'd have to believe in order to feel the way that you feel. And if you need more support and you want it to happen faster, then reach out and introduce yourself, and let's see what we can do to make your day a sure success. Remember, you're just one belief away from having a huge breakthrough in your life, and we can make that happen really fast. So thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you next time.